Welcome back to Hunting the Haunted here on the Paranormal Network, where we dissect and discuss famous, infamous, and not so well-known cases of paranormal activity, ranging from hauntings to alien abductions and Bigfoot sightings. I'm your co-host, Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Peter Renn. This month, given the spirit of the season, we're going to put the spirit into Christmas season with these chilling and alleged true scary Christmas stories.
And I'm sure you're all thinking, Christmas and spooky stuff don't go hand in hand, but they're actually a perfect fit. In fact, the act of sitting around the fire and telling scary stories was, for a time, a popular Victorian Christmas tradition. Thank you all for watching Hunting the Haunted. And I ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now, like this video, and click on the bell, notified each time a new video goes up. Now back to the show. Is that true, Peter?
It actually predates Victorian times as well. It's always been the kind of the folklore back then, probably 200 to 300 years ago, where families would gather around and they would share their spooky stories with each other in relation to urban myths. Interesting,
and we're going to talk about an urban myth story later on in this episode. Just trying to cover a whole gamut of stuff here. Most people associate Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol as the only real tale of a Christmas haunting. It's a work of fiction, though, and in fact, there's some very real Christmas ghost stories out there. Allegedly, of course, right, Peter?
Let me guess, Jason. You searched the internet far and wide to find a few such tales for us to discuss.
Indeed, I did, Peter. I'll share 3 of them. 2 of the ghost variety and 1, well, it's not really that ghostly at all. And you can provide your expert opinion on whether or not there's a grain of truth to any of them. How about that?
Oh, joy.
OLS to the world. All right. This is a story shared by a V page at Cafe Mum. Yes, Cafe Mum. Christmas time of 1995 or 96 at my aunt's house on a reservation in North Dakota. Some of my family was in the living room watching television. The kids were playing in the rooms or sleeping, and my uncle, aunt, and I were sitting at the table working on a puzzle together. My cousin, who worked at a casino, would come home around midnight or 1 a.m. This night, as she pulled up and was walking toward the house, she looked in the window and saw me sitting at the table, my uncle sitting across from me, and someone standing to the left of me and someone standing in the corner. So she continued to walk in the house, thinking nothing of it. As we were sitting there talking, she looked at me and asked who was standing next to me a few minutes ago and who was in the corner. I told her no one. And she said, yeah, there was someone standing next to you. It looked like your mom, and she was playing with your hair. I have long hair, which I used to wear down all the time. Obviously, this is the storyteller telling this. She said this person was running her hand on my hair like a mother does to a child. It kind of freaked me out, being I was probably only 12 or 13 at the time. My cousin swears up and down that someone was standing over me, rubbing my head, and watching me put the puzzle together with my aunt and uncle, and that there was another person standing behind this person. We got around to thinking it was probably her mom she saw. She passed away on her birthday a week before Christmas back in 1992. In my family, we consider our aunts and uncles to be just like our moms and dads. After thinking that it could have been her, it didn't scare me so much. However, we couldn't figure out who the person was standing in the corner. And always around Christmas time, something strange always happens. We just think it's her visiting us. So what do you think about that one, Peter?
Being a skeptic as I am, these type of stories, they generate warmth around like the holiday times, because obviously when I reflect back to my Christmases with my mum and dad and stuff like that, it doesn't have that kind of that warmth. Obviously, I have my own family now, but it obviously doesn't have that warm effect in relation to when I was a child, and having that reassurance and comfort, especially around the holiday times, is phenomenal.
It is, and I know like my father passed away when I was 19, and he always made Christmas for us, and it took years to kind of be able to get back to that warm place, and part of that process was just almost feeling like he was still around some ways. Paying attention.
It does it. You generally rebuild it once you have your own family, because obviously when you see that sparkle in your kids' eyes when they're opening presents and stuff like that, and it kind of gets that magic that magical feeling back. But in relation to this story, it's I would like to think that my parents are around me around Christmas time as well, just for that, for that time of the year at least, where families should be together.
Yeah, whether it be in our world or maybe even coming from another side kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Next up, and this is from your side of the pond, Peter. Hever Castle, which is nestled deep in the British countryside of Kent, was once home to the Boleyn family. Anne Boleyn, the most well-known member of the family, lived the early part of her life there before she married King Henry VIII. Within a few short years of her marriage, however, Anne was targeted by dissent and gossip within the castle, accusing her of everything from witchcraft to adultery. Eventually, her husband formally accused her of these charges, and she was ultimately executed. Whether she suffers from heartbreak or homesickness, Anne Boleyn's spirit is said to haunt the halls of her childhood home, Hever Castle. However, she allegedly only appears one day of the year, Christmas Eve. The rumor is her somber specter is seen drifting silently over the picturesque bridge that spans the River Eden, in the grounds of the home where she knew much happiness. So you actually have a connection to this place, don't you?
Yeah, I used to live, like my old house I grew up in was about 15 minutes away from Hever Castle. And I had probably about 24 years ago, I did a couple of investigations there for cancer research. And it's a very phenomenal castle, like the actual property and the sub houses they have on the estate as well. It's just picturesque, and there is a lot of validation in this story as well. From I remember this story going way back, and this was often one of the stories that the tour guides, actually was one of a very good friend of mine, they speak of when they actually do the tours. There is also a number of connections of sightings of Anne Boleyn actually inside the building as well, but this one kind of struck the chord because it was every Christmas Eve, because they have a number of events there around Christmas, and they've had numerous accounts of her being sighted over the last 2 to 3 decades since I've been around as an investigator.
Wow. So there's a lot of validity so far to the story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally.
That's awesome. Well, and you know what? When I picked that one, I had no idea that you lived 15 minutes from Hever Castle and had investigated it. So this was a pleasant surprise on my part.
I practically grew up there. Like my mum, during the school holidays, we used to go up there as kids because they had like mazes there and stuff like that. And they had a lot of things there for kids. So we used to go up there and have picnics and stuff like that. We used to have school events up there. I've got a very strong connection with that place for sure. Excellent.
Well, we only got one more spooky Christmas story to share, Peter. And I admit this one likely falls into the realm of urban legend BS. But hey, we got to have some fun here. A girl named Juliet is home alone, as she lives with her single mother, who's a nurse taking the night shift. Juliet just finished decorating the Christmas tree when there's a scratching at the door to their apartment. When she looks through the peephole, she sees a man dressed in a dirty Santa Claus suit. "It's Santa Claus," she says. However, Juliet may only be 11, but she's no idiot. She refuses to open the door and threatens to call the police when he doesn't leave. Santa's solution to this dilemma? An axe. Juliet hides in the closet while he busts down the door. It takes some time, but he finds her. Juliet, in true Laurie Strode fashion, manages to stab him in the eye with a coat hanger, but it's all bad Scoobies from there. Juliet's mom gets off shift and manages to come home around midnight. When she does, she finds the door busted open and the Christmas tree decorated with bits of Juliet. What say you on this one, Peter?
Holy crap, where did you dig this one up from?
From the dark bowels of the interwebs.
Let's go back. How do we know that who was knocking at the door?
There, when she looked through the peephole, like literally, it's one of those, it's that kind of story that gets passed around, you know what I mean? Like just, here's it.
But okay, let's put my skeptic hat on here. So Juliet, how do we know it was a dirty person dressed as Santa?
Well, exactly, right? I think it's like I said, it's an urban legend. Remember there was the whole Killer Santa craze from the 80s where
I know.
Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Yeah, I don't know if I feel very comfortable or warm telling this to my kids at Christmas, especially being that they're 6 and 7 years old. Yeah, I don't quite know what to say about that.
What about, because I mean, we do deal with sometimes just things that are stories, right? That are passed around, urban legends. How, like, just what is your knowledge of sort of how the urban legend works, Peter?
Like coming from the UK, there was a lot of urban legends built around where I lived, in particular in Surrey. Well, I was actually on the borderline of Surrey and Kent. There's a lot of historical places such as Heber Castle, and there was various other like old vicarages. There was a church that date back to Henry VIII's time. So there's a lot of, Victorian, Edwardian, that kind of thing, those kind of line of history around our areas. And there's a lot of stories of tales of alleged ghosts. Directly outside my house, if you turn left and just walked a couple of miles, you'd be directly in the Surrey countryside. And there was alleged sightings of a man dressed like Dick Turpin, kind of in a black cape with like a kind of a pointed hat. I don't know the correct name of the hat. And he used to ride around on a horse. And there was numerous sightings around the Surrey and Kent countryside of this particular individual. And then further up, a few miles up, there used to be alleged a hanging tree up there as well, where they apparently, and this has been passed down for generations and generations. I've never really researched it, but that's where they allegedly used to hang witches from. And there were alleged stories of witches circulating around the tree where they're actually hung as well. So all the way around, like even from the far depths of the south of England all the way up to the northern part of England, or even reaching Scotland obviously as well, we have these stories that like some of them have had sightings and stuff like that, valid sightings and stuff like that, but it's a part of our culture, because the fundamental reason we sit around fires and at Christmas or at Halloween is for these stories, and it is to get some of these are fiction and some of these might have some validity to them as well.
Well, and like you said, the gentleman you're mentioning who was cited, he was a highwayman robber in England. So it starts with the truth and then works into fiction. He
totally was, and he was a man in history, and he started off. I think he started off in York, if memory serves me correctly, which is the northern part of England. But he'd circulate all the way from northern part of England down to the south, like robbing people. So and there was kind of there were identical people like him doing the same thing as well, where they used to loot people on highways. They used to jump out of bushes with guns and loot them. Interesting.
All right. Well, and I kind of think that macabre story I shared with everyone is probably something very similar to that, or a complete work of fiction. That wraps up this episode of Hunting the Haunted. We'll be back next month with another investigation. Until then, thank you for watching our show. Until next time, Merry Christmas, and I'm Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Peter Renn. Happy holidays and stay spooky.